African-American woman who drove 18 miles every day at 11 o'clock at night to sleep the midnight to 8 a.m. shift with 6 mentally disabled girls. She gets paid $15 an hour to do this. And I said, that's tough work. That's got to be really rough. And she said, you know, sometimes it is a little tough because none of the girls can sleep through the night. And they wake up and they don't know where they are and they're terrified. And so every night, I've got to go out and climb into bed with one of these girls, and some of them, they have IQs of 15 or 20. They don't know, they just know that somebody's there to hold them. And I said, God, that's got to be tough. And she said, no, it isn't tough. Every time I climb into bed with one of those girls to hold them, I say a little prayer, I thank God. And I say, these girls are loved by their moms and dads. Their parents adore them. I see them when they come for visiting. But their moms and dads couldn't do it anymore. They couldn't work and take care of the other kids. And so they had to give these girls up to the state. They had to say, will someone please help me to take care of my daughter? And God gave me the strength to come here every night at midnight and to put their daughters to bed and to care for them through the night. And when that mom or dad calls in the morning and says, is my daughter okay? They don't even have to check in the place where I sleep, because the person who answers that phone can say, yes, your daughter's okay, because a public employee came there and took care of her through the night. And I'll tell you something, I don't do it for the $14 an hour. And I don't do it for the benefits. I do it because this is the most wonderful work that anyone could do. And I do it because these girls need me, their parents need me, and my state needs me to do this. That's what this struggle is about. This struggle is not about collective bargaining. This struggle is not about union rights. This struggle is not even about democracy, that central issue that so much of this has come back to. This struggle is about whether we're going to be a civil society, whether we're going to be a humane place, where if, by the chance of luck or fate, you have a mentally disabled child, or a kid who needs a little more help in school, or a road 4 miles out in the county that needs to be plowed, or a tax form that needs to be checked over, or a kid who needs chemo, needs a nurse to come in at 2 in the morning and take care of her, that there's going to be somebody there, and that person is not going to be beaten down or destroyed by a state that says, oh, you're greedy, you get paid too much, we can't let you have decent benefits, we can't let you have a small pension when you retire. No. When my daughter needs help, if God forbid my daughter was sleeping in that room on that night, I would want the woman who came and climbed into bed with her and put her to sleep to be well paid, to have great benefits, to have a great pension, and to be free to do the public service, to be free to take care of all of our children, to be free to take care of all of our society. That is what we are fighting for, and we must never, ever forget it. We are not fighting for ourselves. We are fighting for a country that is decent and fair and good in which to live. And we need make no apology. And we also need, and I'll close with this, we need to remember something that labor forgot. And it's the most powerful lesson of all. And that is, by the way, before I say that, anybody here from Vermont Federation of Nurses? Where are you? Hey, hello. You guys, I gotta tell you one final thing before I tell this last thing. Vermont Federation of Nurses, man, they don't mess around. They came to Wisconsin. Am I right? Were you out in Wisconsin? And they came into our capital, occupied by 7,000 to 8,000 people, and they went right to the center of it, moved the posters away, and flipped over the Vermont Public Employees banner right in front, so that anybody who came in the capital kept seeing Vermont Public Employees. Now that's a union that doesn't miss a chance to promote itself. Everybody's like, Vermont, where's that in Wisconsin? But let me close off with this thing that unions forgot that is my favorite part of this. It's my favorite part of the whole damn story. So, but this thing got going, the New York Times. And they're, you know, I am a very smart pundit, but the New York Times, they're smarter than me. They're the smartest, smartest people in journalism, the smartest people in punditry, the smartest people in commentary. They're all at the New York Times. So they hired a pollster, and they said, go out and poll people on unions. Go out, these unions are making noise out in Wisconsin. I believe the word is spelled U-N-I-O-N. We haven't actually covered them for a long time, but go out and figure out what's up with that. Ask people about unions. And they said, they made up the questions. I'm not no hyperbole here. They said, well, let's make up the questions. There's certain things we know, right? Everybody hates public employees, right? That's a given. Everybody hates teachers. Everybody knows they're paid too much. They have Cadillac benefits. They don't work hard. They went, they had all these things that you should, all the reasons you dislike unions. So they went out and surveyed people. And they said, well, what do you think about unions? And it came back, 80% of people said they think unions are a really good thing. And wow, that's amazing. They said, what do you think about collective bargaining rights? 70% of people said they think collective bargaining rights are really, really important. What do you think about public employees? Like 65, 70% of people say, we think public employees are great. We really like them. We appreciate the services they do. So what do you think about teachers? Well, we love teachers. So the New York Times got this survey in. They got it in, and they looked at it, and they said, must be a statistical error. No, I'm not kidding. Something must be wrong here because it's all this could have been put out by the AFT. Toss this, right? They didn't even report it. They didn't make big story about it. Then Time Magazine went out and hired a pollster a couple days later. And the pollster came back, same questions. 80% of people like unions. 70% think collective bargaining is great. Public employees are popular. Teachers are popular. And they look down and they're like, what is going on here? Can't we get a decent pollster to get us an accurate report on what the American people think? And one of the pollsters finally sat him down and said, sir, I think I figured out what the problem was. We haven't polled on unions in 30 years. We haven't gone out and asked people about unions in decades. And so we simply presumed that what Rush Limbaugh and everybody said was true. Right? Because it's all, you heard it, all the media. It's not even right-wing media. The mainstream major media tells you, oh, public employees are the problem. That's why we're broke. Well, the fact is they hadn't paid attention all this time. And then to an extent, neither had we. And we lost sight of the fact that people still like us. And that people will actually come out and stand with us in the freezing cold and defend our rights because they know that our fight for ourselves is a fight for our whole community, for our whole state, for our whole nation. And I learned that 2 days after the New York Times announced on its front page that the Wisconsin labor struggle was over. They said, oh, it's done. The legislature passed this thing through. And on that Saturday morning, 3 weeks ago, I went down south of Madison, about 5 miles, to see my friend Joel Greeno. He's a farmer from up in Kendall, Wisconsin, about a couple hours away from Madison. He said he was going to bring some farmers down to join us in the struggle. And when I got out there to the parking lot where all the farmers were going to gather, there were dozens and dozens of tractors that had rolled in from across Wisconsin. And they had handmade signs on them that said, farmers support workers. Farmers defend our rural schools. Farmers defend our rural services. And Joel got up there with that wonderful, reedy Wisconsin voice. And he said right before things got started, it was freezing cold, it was about 10 degrees out, wind chill. Joel said, some of these workers need us. So we've all done our chores this morning. One of our guys finished his chores early and rode in from Bear Valley 7 hours on his tractor to get here. We're going to roll into that Capitol, and whoever's there, I don't care if there's one person or 10 people, we're going to stand with them and we're going to say, no matter what they say about this struggle, the farmers are with them. We're not giving up. And he said, okay, let's roll. And these tractors rolled down into the city. And along the way as we came in, we'd see like 10 kids with signs that said, thanks, farmers. And then you'd see like 50 people with signs saying, big banners that said, thanks for coming, farmers. And as we got closer, people started slowing down because farm tractors don't go. Tractors go about 8 miles an hour. They started slowing down cars, and a corridor of cars came along the side to make sure that the farmers could keep going on their tractors. And people were honking their horns. They've all learned how to honk their horns in the rhythm of "This is what democracy looks like." Beep, 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 beep. And so they're all honking their horns, and the farmers are waving. And we rolled in toward downtown Madison, came up a hill toward the Capitol. Snow coming down, freezing day. And there was 150,000 people to greet those farmers. We rolled into that square, and people had tears rolling down their eyes, down their cheeks, because they recognized this was no longer simply a struggle for labor. This was a universal struggle for universal human rights, for universal working rights, for a state and a nation that we can be proud of. And those farmers, when they rallied, they stood up, and one of the most reediest, sort of outstate, rural, white as can be farmers, he stood up and he said, "I'm here today because in my little public school, when I was a kid, I learned about the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. And Reverend King, he died marching with trade unionists for their rights. He died marching with public employees. And as a farmer, I've never been a member of a union, but I've always been proud of Dr. King. So I figure if somebody's attacking the unions, I'd better come and stand with them." Now, 3 days from today, we will remember the anniversary of Dr. King's assassination. And we will say to ourselves what we all know, that Dr. King did not die in a boardroom of a corporation with CEOs. He did not die in the corridor of a capitol or in an Oval Office or in a governor's office. He died in Memphis, Tennessee, where he was rallying with sanitation workers for their collective bargaining rights. He died in exactly the same struggle that each and every one of us, no matter what the particular play in our state right now is, he died in the same struggle that we are in. And so on April 4th, across this country, we will rally. And we will rally in the name of Dr. King, and we will say, as he said, labor rights are human rights. You cannot attack the worker without attacking the community, the state, the nation. And as we march on that day, and as we rally on that day, we will renew something that has been broken too long in this country. And we will say that from here on out, organized labor makes no more apologies. Organized labor makes no more compromises. We will fight for ourselves and we will fight for our rights, but we will fight for the rights of all citizens. We will fight for our communities, for our states and our nation, and we will say, this fight, this final great struggle for America will realize the promise of our revolution, will realize the promise of our Civil War, will realize the promise of our civil rights movement, and we will say finally that we have made an America worthy of Dr. King, worthy of that dream. We will get to the mountaintop, and we will do so shouting at the top of our lungs, "Some